must secure the bond with a final act of trust.
How do I...
The era of the bad movie tie-in is over. Today, we're living in an age where games based on licensed IP are among the cream of the crop. The Batman Arkham franchise, the Witcher games, and Insomniac's Spider-Man series are all critically acclaimed top sellers. Hoping to run alongside them is Ubisoft's Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora.
We don't want to be a movie game. We want to be a game that exists in the universe.
The Western frontier is no less the world of Avatar than what's in the movies.
But Ubisoft faced a challenge that Rocksteady and Insomniac never did. Frontiers of Pandora isn't just a licensed game, it's canon to the Avatar universe. That means everything in it is a recognized part of the official Avatar story, approved by the studio who made the original movies. Anything Ubisoft created had to fit perfectly within this existing, intricate world.
We needed to ask so many questions.
Making it fit within the universe, but also fit within a game, was probably the greatest challenge.
Overcoming that challenge required extensive research and constant communication with the team of James Cameron, Avatar's creator and director.
Let's now take what you did in the video game and explore that in the movie.
Listen, in a video game, you need to be able to do this.
Making a game is not the same as making a movie.
This is the inside story of how Ubisoft created the next canon chapter in the Avatar universe.
Let us not stand around waiting to be caught out.
Massive Entertainment is one of Ubisoft's European development studios, based in Malmö, Sweden. It's best known for creating The Division, but since 2017, Massive has been hard at work making something light years away from the world of Tom Clancy.
Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is an action-adventure, first-person open-world game. And it's set on the Western frontier, a continent on Pandora that is quite a bit of ways from the events of the first and the second movie, but it takes place at the same time.
We just wanted to ensure that our stories, our themes, while they felt familiar, they were different, right? Because we just didn't want to feel like we were retelling a story that, most of the world has seen.
For 6 years, Massive has been working with Lightstorm Entertainment, James Cameron's own movie studio, to build a brand new, wholly original corner of Pandora. This new continent is not just the stage for a new story, but also the home of new Na'vi clans, the habitat of new creatures, and the soil from which new plants grow. And, to put even more pressure on the project, all of this has to adhere perfectly to Avatar's intricately detailed lore. Everything in Frontiers of Pandora is canon, an officially recognized, important part of the Avatar universe, and so there's no room for error. Simply put, this is a colossal undertaking. This may be Massive's first visit to Pandora, but Ubisoft has visited the moon before. Its previous excursion was back in 2009 with Avatar: The Game, a movie tie-in that acted as a prequel to the original film. Ubisoft's Montreal studio was given permission by Lightstorm to do whatever it wanted for the game. However, none of it would be considered canon to the Avatar universe, and so the many new characters and clans created for the game have been long since forgotten, relegated to life as Wikipedia pages. But it's not just the clans that have been forgotten. Avatar: The Game did not review especially well. As with many movie games from the 2000s, it was considered dull and rudimentary. Both Ubisoft and the wider AAA industry has since moved on from film tie-ins, seemingly as a response to their continued struggles. But despite being a disappointment, Avatar: The Game did provide something to build on. The union between Ubisoft and Lightstorm could be the basis of something greater, a completely authentic rendition of Pandora in which you live out the next canon chapter of the Avatar story. Fast forward a few years, and with the production of Avatar: The Way of Water underway, it was time to pitch a brand new Avatar game. But rather than an adaptation of the highly anticipated sequel, this game would be a completely separate experience that showcased a whole new side of Pandora.
If we do not fight, we will lose everything.
Many moons ago, Ubisoft was working on an idea for an Avatar title that they independently wanted to create. They put together this gorgeous kind of proof of concept, and that proof of concept was brought to Lightstorm.
It was stunning. They showed us plants, they showed us reflections in water, they showed us creatures moving through the environment. They did this all on their own.
And seeing the level of care and the level of detail that was put into such a snapshot of that promise of what the game could deliver was enough for the filmmakers to kind of take notice and say, this is the company that we want to do business with. But it really was a beautiful, beautiful little demo.
It was super clear that we were on the same page. It needed all of the advantages that the interactive medium has over the linear one. The freedom to explore and look at all of the cool things that Pandora has to offer at your own pace.
Freedom would be important from a gameplay perspective, but the game wouldn't be free of Avatar's philosophies and values. Massive was dedicated to making this virtual Pandora as authentic as possible.
I mean, it was really important for us to stay true to the ethos of Avatar, caring about the world in which you live, and kind of like, fighting as well for that.
Ewa has brought us calm.
Simultaneously to Massive building its proof of concept, Lightstorm itself was pondering an expansion into the interactive space. And so when the demo arrived and showcased such a deep understanding of the Avatar universe, it was clear what needed to happen.
It sort of was this serendipitous moment. Everything came together at the right time. Each one of the companies respectively said, we want to be in business together.
With Massive and Lightstorm united, it was time to start the long and challenging journey of creating a game where every character, clan, tree, mushroom, and blade of grass had to perfectly adhere to James Cameron's rulebook.
Well, the first thing we did is we watched the movie a whole lot. You familiarize yourself with the world, and then you figure out how can you make the best possible game in this? Where are all the cool interactions? Where are all the cool synergies?
Watching the film over and over wasn't enough to truly know the world of Pandora, though. To learn everything there was to know about the universe, Massive was given access to Lightstorm's immense vault of secrets.
We had full access to everything. We had the enormous privilege to read the scripts, especially for Avatar: The Way of Water, before it came out.
Early access to what was coming in the next film helped refine the project's direction and ensure it stayed lore accurate to the time period it would be set in. But knowing what would happen in The Way of Water was just the beginning.
The work that's gone into developing Pandora on the Lightstorm side is much, much more than what you see in the movie, right? It's like a tip of the iceberg.
We have created an evolving Bible of Avatar lore.
Here's everything you ever needed to know about our universe. Here's the cultures. Here's what the RDA is about. Here's the 40,000 feet down to the most granular, tiny detail.
Every character, every vehicle, like we have to go to the hardware side of things, every creature.
We have a dedicated lore person called Jennifer Bartram, and she has this just like encyclopedia inside her mind.
I think one of the advantages of having a world that is so well built as Pandora is, in terms of the thought that was put into it, the resources are exactly how we at Ubisoft develop our worlds. We start with the world. Here's the geography, here's the climate, here's the species, here's how they live, here's their culture, that leads to these clans, that leads to these conflicts, that leads to these people and their agendas.
The lore is vital to Frontiers of Pandora's status as a canon Avatar project, but it's also just one layer of the experience. The fiction cannot come alive without a game to power it, and so all that research had to be translated into an interactive world with systems and mechanics. That would require close collaboration between two studios from two very different worlds. The clashing values of linear movies and freeform video games risked conflict between Lightstorm and Massive. For this Avatar game to succeed, a balance of trust was required.
Trust me, my young.
At the start of a process, it's a little bit uncomfortable. You think that you found the right partner, but you really don't know until you go through a process. We learned very early on that we can not only trust them, but we can welcome them into our whole thought process, because we saw how they were taking things and implementing those into what they did. And the feedback we got was sincere, thoughtful, and provocative for us.
The partnership between Massive and Lightstorm is much, much deeper than that of client and contractor. The project has been a collaboration between the two companies. Every new story you experience, character you meet, and plant you see is the result of a joint effort between Ubisoft designers and Lightstorm staff.
You find a bond as strong as ours.
Working directly with the experts at Lightstorm, it was a fantastic opportunity because they are the very ones who are making the films and who have made the films.
The actual people, the actual art directors, the actual costume designers.
We've had a really good working relationship with them because we needed to ask so many questions in order to translate it back into culture and lore and story, but also into gameplay.
They've created these insanely detailed worlds that we needed to expand on. And not only did we need to expand on it, but we need to make sure that when we expanded on it, it made sense for gameplay. Right? Marrying that attention to detail and making it fit within the universe, but also fit within a game, I think was probably the greatest challenge.
Creating a game is a huge challenge at the best of times, but creating a game in someone else's universe is an entirely different level of difficulty. The values of the studio and the creator of the universe are bound to come into conflict sooner or later, especially when making new additions. This was something that Massive had to learn how to overcome.
As is normal in game development, there are of course ideas where, we really want to fit it, and then at the end of the day, it's just maybe not a great fit, either with the IP or the science, right? And that's something that Lightstorm takes very seriously.
There's never been really a moment in time where Massive has come to us and said, we'd like to do X, and that X was an immediate red flag. It's always, we have a game design or a narrative or a level design challenge. And that challenge is important to gameplay. We'd like to attack it from this direction. The direction might be wrong sometimes, but all we had to do was turn the camera.
I mean, I remember with the melee, for example, we were like, it needs to have more impact. So when you melee a soldier, they need to go flying, right? And Lightstorm was like, yes, that is great. That Na'vi are super strong, they're powerful, they can do that. And they were they encouraged us a lot there.
Only on early stage where we had, hey, what about this thing? This would be really cool. And they're like, you know what? No.
I think that once you hear the explanation, it's usually like, yeah, we can't do that.
We were not afraid to ask, they don't get upset when we ask something that's over the line and they say, no, that's too much, it doesn't fit Avatar.
Yeah, we had the final say on a character look, on a creature look, on a gameplay, on a new clan, all of those things. But we also embraced hearing from Ubisoft what makes the best gameplay. We don't know that. We're filmmakers. So we might say, no, in the story, let's do this differently. They go, John, that's a movie thing. In a game, we need to do this. And we were open to hearing those ideas.
One that comes to mind is for the amps. We really wanted the ability for the player to do a melee finisher. Player busts through the glass and rips out the pilot and throws them. We talked a lot about how would that actually work? What are the mechanics of the suit? How exactly do they work? Could you immobilize it? And it led us down this path with hacking. The question that we had asked them was how could this make sense? And so we talked directly to the person who actually designs all of the amps. He was bouncing ideas off of us, and we asked well, can we hack into the software and what would that be used for? And so we came up with the idea that actually they would use this for maintenance. And so you would actually be turning on a maintenance mode, and you'd be manipulating that. So he really helped us shape that.
The constant conversation and collaboration between the studios has led to Frontiers of Pandora becoming arguably the deepest, most detailed examination of Avatar lore. There are elements in its gameplay systems rooted in Lightstorm ideas that have never been featured on screen before.
They would bring us game challenges and game mechanics. We need the player to do A, B, and C from a great gameplay mechanic perspective. And then we would go back and say, all right, here are the elements that are within the Avatar universe that we can place on top or build out or create from the ground up.
A small example is if you dig really deep into Na'vi lore, there is a concept of a mentorship and learning. Then the Na'vi kind of shows it as this spiral pattern, and it has a name and there's a long story to it. And that particular spiral ends up being then how we show your connection to the Na'vi clans.
We said, hey, we want weak points on the enemies. Like, what do you think is the best? Like, do the vents work? Like, we like that they're very visible, and he's absolutely, like, here's how they work. Same thing actually with Poison. We really wanted Poison to kind of work differently with the amps versus soldiers. And so we had lots of discussions on, like, is there an air filtration system when they're in the amp? So like the Poison cloud wouldn't affect an amp if it had its glass.
In the third region that you get to in the game, there we wanted to make something really different. And it turned out they had this really, really cool tree that almost looked like a human brain neuron. This tree was something that they had, and where they said it didn't end up in any of the movies, can you use it? And we're like, absolutely, fantastic.
I think Ben Proctor, in terms of designing the tech stuff, there was a lot of stuff he was limited in being able to do. And I think the idea of being able to expand his portfolio of mechs, that was an opportunity for saying, look, I never got to do this over here, but what about you guys doing it over here?
A new bond.
Frontiers of Pandora has been an exciting opportunity to prominently feature some of the most obscure elements of Avatar lore. But the most fascinating part of the game is its originality. As such, the knowledge of James Cameron's team could only take Massive so far. Beyond the furthest reaches of Lightstorm's frontier lay Massive's greatest challenge: to take everything the team had learned about Avatar and create not just a new story, but a fully realized continent that no one has ever seen before. The Western Frontier is home to 3 brand new regions and 3 very different Na'vi clans, all of which have been created from scratch by Massive. The aim was to provide just enough familiarity in order to draw fans into a world they love, but then offer plenty of surprises the deeper you journey into the frontier.
So we have the King Law Forest and the Aranahe clan live there. The King Law Forest is probably aesthetically the most familiar. It's lush, tropical jungle, essentially.
They have all these like beautiful silk tapestries and clothing. They cultivate like this moth that's called the kinglor. It makes the silk, and they harvest that, and that's kind of part of your journey is kind of learning about them. But they're also banshee riders. But then when you contrast that with like the Zeswa and the Upper Plains, they're used to this rugged environment, so they themselves are kind of tough. They like to brawl. They like to drink fermented milk from this giant animal called Zakru.
And they build their settlements up against the side of these creatures because the upper plains have a very persistent wind. Then there is the Clouded Forest. This region is based on the Pacific Northwest. It's like huge pine trees and moss and shrouded in mist. And the Kamatiri clan live here, and they are a more reclusive people, and they're kind of mysterious.
They're a little bit more like secluded of a society. They're a little bit more like kind of stealthy. In gameplay mechanics, right, like they have a lot of things that like give you stealth, herbal, like solutions that you can take that give you all sorts of different kinds of buffs.
You know, we have very detailed character backgrounds for everyone in the clans. Everyone who has dialogue in the clans has a backstory of who they have relationships with, their wants and needs.
It's clear that a huge amount of work has gone into making these original clans and regions feel as authentically Avatar as possible. But all those meticulously developed ecosystems and cultures are at the mercy of the player. Thanks to its open-world design, players have the agency to make choices that go against the peaceful and harmonious views of the Na'vi. So, how has Massive dealt with that potentially law-breaking freedom?
Something I've learned over the years is making games. This ability is not something to be curtailed or reined in or fought. It's something we embrace. And Lightstorm and everybody involved, they are well aware that we cannot control gamers and we should not control gamers.
That said, there is a lot of the Na'vi ethos or the Avatar ethos that we carried with us deep in the gameplay systems from the very start. Like, don't take more than you need. So we have a quality over quantity approach both in our cooking and our crafting systems. That's built in from the start. If you're very destructive towards creatures or the environment, like you can't actually use what you get back. While at the same time, we're a game and we want you to have fun and we want you to like use a shotgun and blow stuff up if that's what you want, and you can.
From the deepest roots of the Kinglor Forest to the rolling fields of the Upper Plains, everything Massive has created for Frontiers of Pandora has been cemented in Avatar canon. It's all official Avatar lore.
We enter your welcoming arms.
The Western frontier is no less a part of the world of Avatar than what's in the movies, to the point where one of the species that we conceived and that we built together with them is being used in an Avatar exhibition that they did. There is some, talk about, maybe using some of the stuff that we did in the upcoming movies.
I can't necessarily spoil that right now, but I can say that there are going to be some future sequel elements in Frontiers of Pandora that will pay off when the movie comes out, when Avatar 3 comes out in 2025.
I think clans are a perfect thing to someday try to weave into the movies. New environments, going and really saying, okay, let's now take what you did in the video game and explore that in the movie. But also, there's a great opportunity to take the story of the game, the world of the game, and maybe do it in graphic novels.
As you can imagine, the team are incredibly proud and excited about their work being immortalized as part of one of the biggest blockbuster universes ever created.
I think we made a lot of really cool wildlife that's completely new to our little corner of Pandora. So I think that we contributed some really cool creatures to this universe.
The amount of research that the team did, for example, for how would creatures evolve? Like, what would their eye shape be? Like, what kind of sense of hearing would they have? Where would the ears be positioned? And kind of like going through that and then creating brand new wildlife with Lightstorm, and then that becomes canon. That was just super cool.
It is very, very cool because it is a film universe that's known for its rigor in terms of its lore. And so, yeah, it's really awesome.
It's humbling. The end result is the most important thing. What we have in the game, the way that it fits together, the way that the animals and the clans and their culture, they all feel of the world, right? They're grounded in it.
Like if you're flying on your Banshee or you're high up somewhere and it's like you're looking down over your creation and you're like, we made this. That makes me really proud.
Ubisoft has specialized in open worlds for well over a decade, and Massive has proven itself with its incredibly detailed replicas of New York City and Washington, DC for The Division. But Frontiers of Pandora was an entirely new challenge beyond just geographical accuracy. Creating a canon Avatar game demanded rigorous exploration of alien ecosystems, fictional biology, and engineering lore. But thanks to the strong partnership between Massive and Lightstorm, the studio has been able to craft a completely accurate, entirely official new chapter in the Avatar story. It's 6 years of meticulous work that lives up to the standards of the universe's creators, and a game that will transport us to the luminescent forests we've so far only ever dreamed about. You're not in Kansas anymore, you're on Pandora.
We did not want war, but they have made us warriors.